Welcome back to Bits and Boards. I'm Anthony Krolikowski, and today we're going to be talking about the local gaming and esports scene here in the Capital Region, which, as you know, is the focus of Bits and Boards and why I got this whole thing started in the first place. We go a little back and forth with some trading card games and video game developers from all over the place, but of course, local news. We want to highlight some local people doing some local stuff. Joining me today is Mike Crossman. He is the CEO of Claim to Fame Entertainment, and you might have seen him out and about at Video Entertainment. So first, Mike, just thanks for joining me here today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Just give me a little bit of background on you and your business and just how you got esports and the tournament space, which is what you started in here, how you got that going, just that background information.
Sure. So I have a huge background in sports, and I love sports. I also love video games. So when the opportunity to mash them together presented itself around 20 years ago, I'm not aging myself, we got involved, and so I loved competing at like a semi-pro level gaming, and I saw how events were being put on, and I really liked the fact that there was like this whole ecosystem and like community of gamers that are just like super competitive, but also like to compete but level up. So when we had the opportunity to step into esports, we first worked with GameStop. We did a midnight release, and it went amazing. We had a Madden pre-release party, and if you remember back in the day, they used to do hard copies of games, and so you would be able to go pre-purchase the game, and at midnight you could play the game. So we ran a midnight Madden tournament, and we ran it on the Xbox, and we had 4 Xboxes on an 80-person tournament. So after that, we figured out we could probably do this and, make it more of a community event. So we worked with GameStop a couple more times doing some midnight releases. And we said, hey, why don't we start a business, kind of bring this to a more professional level. And that's really what spawned like Claim to Fame Entertainment. Now, Claim to Fame was like a research and development for a gaming lounge. Our end goal was always to have a space where people can come in, compete, and learn how to compete, or just play rec with their friends. More of the couch co-op. That was our biggest thing. Everyone used to play Halo, Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, and those are the games that people were like really kind of the first esports games. Madden, FIFA, those games as well. So we really enjoyed like having that community, that presence of people. So we made it more into a professional business, and we became kind of like a DJ service where we brought equipment everywhere, and we set up at, Dave & Buster's, we set up at a bowling alley, wherever they had big space where we could bring a lot of units. And we partnered for the last decade now. We've partnered with so many different local businesses, national businesses, big organizations, and really the entertainment and the rec side is our bread and butter. It's so fun to just have, a Monday night Smash Bros tournament and, 40 people show up and, they stream and they're competitive and they're, doing friendlies. And that's really like what we wanted to bring kind of to the community where, you have your traditional sports, but now you have your esports. And, for us, loving both video games and sports, it's nice to have a space where people can come in, they can play, they can learn how to play, and they can meet other gamers. And that was the big thing for us.
We covered when your esports lounge video opened about, I want to say it was 2025, at the beginning of 2025.
Yeah, yep.
And I should know because I just cut up the video and it said January in there. But with having a space like this, a physical space, tell me about how you've been able to cultivate your community and also grow even further with the space here.
So like I said, when we started Claim to Fame, the whole idea was to have research and development for creating a space, because there's a lot of overhead when you're on your own space, and we wanted to make sure that there was the right economy for it, right? So we actually had plans to open up right before COVID. We had an investor from the city, and they were going to come in. They loved what the Capital Region was doing with gaming, game development, the schools. So it was just another component of like the gaming ecosystem is to have a space where these people can come in, do it on the rec side, but then learn about careers in gaming. So then COVID happened, and we were like, well, I'm glad we didn't do that because that was our dream, is to have something, and it would have been shattered right there.
Hard stop.
Yeah, it was. And so during COVID, we really kind of changed our mission from doing like the entertainment side to the education side. So we created different like STEM programs that helped like schools and after school programs kind of establish an identity in like the gaming space. So, video games kind of kids are really into the video games, whether it's the mobile games or, your first play, one player games to the esports side. So really after COVID or during COVID, we created a STEM education program where kids will learn about game development, careers in gaming, social media management, broadcasting. And when we got out of the COVID, 2 or 3 years, we started implementing more of education into it. So fast forward a couple years after COVID, that's when we opened up VDO. And VDO was kind of become the hub of, just the gaming, kind of the rec stuff. But the real mission was to have the education programs. So we partnered with the Albany County Parks and Rec to do some programming there. We've worked with the YMCA, the Jewish Community Center. These different groups that were looking for a different way to engage kids is, that's what we brought to the table. And so now having your own space, it's one, it's a lot easier because we're not hauling equipment everywhere. Every Monday we were setting up and breaking down, and that was becoming too much. So it's nice to have one location, everything set up. You just turn the lights on, kind of turnkey, And so now we can explore more of these different parts of the ecosystem in the gaming industry. So whether it's game development, we just finished our 6-week course with 518 Game Changers. They had a 6-week game development course. Kids created their own games. And at the end of 6 weeks, we got to try it out, had a party, and it was nice. And so, these are things that having your own space allows you to do. We do a girl gamer event. All girls, they come in the game, they talk to CEOs of different companies, and it's really engaging and powerful for women to come in and check that out, right? And so that was the whole mission of having a space, is that we can kind of have the control on what we can do, what kind of partnerships we can have, and what kind of programs we can do.
When you talk about partnerships, just who have you been partnering with and looking to grow when it comes to, hosting tournaments or having the esports scene come in, and, maybe there's the high schools that don't exactly have access to the high-tech computer room that can play games that can,
So, we've been doing this for 10 years. So we've seen it grow from, the schools and nobody doing gaming to now we have high school programs, we have collegiate programs, we have workforce development and gaming. The BOCES do game development. UAlbany has a game development major. RPI has a game development major. And then you're talking about the esports stuff, right? So UAlbany just invested in a nice arena at UAlbany. I think you covered that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Schenectady Community College has a nice arena there.
Cover that one too.
Yep, there you go. See, there you go, 2 for 2. Hudson Valley has a great program with a great leadership there. They're looking for a space, but we'll leave that for them. Mm-hmm. And then Bryan Stratton has a great program, which I'm a little biased to, but they have a great arena as well. So you're looking in the past 7 years, these they've just popped out of nowhere. But when we've been in this scene for, I'm going to say 10, 11 years, it was just we see the foundation pieces putting together this. So now that we see the schools doing it, and we had a large part of, playing in that, we've helped the schools kind of navigate how they want to run their esports programs and, what leagues be a part of. And we do our high school esports showcase. So we showcase it throughout New York State. So when it comes back to, how the schools got involved, and it's just another avenue of kids having an activity to do if they don't play their traditional sports and they're more into the tech stuff. So I really like seeing, kids get together and compete and do the same things in sports, but for esports. And then maybe they develop a game. Maybe they develop music for the game. And that's what sparks it, right? Is that teamwork, is that, that kind of that culture.
Going forward from this is a starting point, right, for kids or teens to see gaming in this way. Talking about the education side of it or connecting them. Like we've already talked about, having UAlbany and the other SUNY system schools getting in there and doing programs, but how this is just part of that puzzle. Yes, it can be fun. Yes, it can be low educational as well, but bring them into the next steps of, what they're pursuing when it comes to the years to come for them.
Sure. Yeah. So, we like to start the kids just like a traditional sport, 8, 9, T-ball, they get involved and, those are fun to watch sports like that. And so now when you're talking about esports and creating these pipelines, we have over 24 game development studios in the capital region. So they're always looking for game developers, coders, people that are interested in that kind of workforce. So our mission is kind of to start them. If you're interested in gaming, you're not really interested in the traditional sports. Esports and competitive gaming is like kind of the introduction to, hey, how is this game made? So, it's kind of the hook. The hook is, I'm going to come in to this camp, play video games. But what the kids are actually learning is what they like about gaming, whether it's developing the game, like I said, developing the music, developing, the storyboards. I've seen on your show you had different game developers here talking about board games. And that's just a different way of being creative, right? And so we just want to explore that with the kids. And so when they have a safe atmosphere where they can access these high-end computers and just it's a nice computer lab basically, now you're innovating them, right? And they have this innovation to, maybe pursue something that is more in the game development. And so now you create it, you got the beginning of it, and then you introduce them from middle school to high school to like the different programs and BOCE programs. And then now you have the colleges, right? And so now you're creating this pipeline from, someone that likes video games, now they're developing video games, and then to career, right? And so now you're looking at like Wolfjaw Studios in Troy. You're looking at Valen. You're looking at these other capital regions that are like looking to have homegrown talent rather than trying to get them from out of state. Hey, come move to Troy or Albany. And now you have this pipeline where they're going to high school, learning it, and now college, and then right into the career. So that was the biggest thing is how do you navigate that at an early age? And really the introduction is like, I can come play Mario, but then you're exploring what they really like.
Before we go to break, I got to have the quick throwaway question for you. And what is your go-to game? Now, it doesn't have to be in the esports realm. It could be just what you play in your free time.
So I was thinking about this as I was driving here, and there's some games that I can really get into, but I really like the competitive aspect of games. So like Marvel Rivals right now is like one of the games that it mixes like an Overwatch, like competitive feel, but with your Marvel characters. So you really can be engaged and you know the IP of the character, so you really like it. So I would say Rivals. I'm a big into like community games. I like games that you play with a lot of people because I like how people interact. So any game that I'm not really a solo player guy. I have a twin brother, so it was never a solo type of thing for me. So having that aspect of like bigger communities accomplishing things together is like what I really like about gaming.
Growing up in the country, solo gaming is kind of where it was at, right?
Yeah, but different demographics, different games.
But for me, Fire Emblem has been that the anime chess, if you will.
Yeah.
So now with that info out of the way, we will play that jingle, and I got a lot more to ask you for the rest of the time we got.
Yeah, perfect.
Welcome back to some more Bits and Boards. Now, Mike, as somebody who, in my eyes, is really behind the whole Capital Region esports scene here, from what I've seen and what I've heard, big mix of everything. Compare this to where you say the esports scene is the biggest around, or what is your inspiration, and just compare the two of where we're at compared to where they're at.
Sure. So, the biggest esports scenes are in mostly like the bigger cities, in New York City, down south, Texas, Florida, Boston. And really my inspiration, we're talking probably 8-9 years ago, there was a brother duo in California. They started Esports Arena. And they had a really cool blueprint of working in kind of buying a warehouse and transforming it into like a more of a rec center for esports. And actually, talking to them on Discord. Well, it wasn't Discord back then, but one of the services.
One of the many. Mm-hmm.
There was like a kind of like a committee or a coalition of people that were interested in this new wave of esports. And so, they actually partnered with Walmart to create esports lounges inside of Walmart. So this was like the next wave is like, instead of your traditional arcade, we saw more of this like esports movement with the competitive gaming and like earning money and being a pro gamer. And really, so I wanted to bring that here to the Capital Region. And obviously you have to start with foundation pieces, claim to fame was setting that foundation with partnering with different entities like GameStop and the local colleges and game developers. But what I really saw was there was no way of kind of reintroducing like this grassroots feel. And so the biggest thing for esports and any sport really is that once you kind of have your time in it, you move on, right? And you move on and then you have to get the new generation to like fall in love with the sport, right? And we're seeing that with some traditional sports are having a hard time getting kids into the traditional sports. So I really saw that model of like, how can we make sure that doesn't happen with esports? So that's where, VDO comes in, and we want a space where kids can be introduced to the gaming, and then you're really like facilitating that kind of ecosystem where they start at a young age gaming and then they become the next, it doesn't have to be a pro gamer, but maybe they develop games. Maybe they develop some stuff with AI or cybersecurity, and they got their start in a place that allowed them to have that reach. So, when I see like the city and I see Florida and Texas, and I love their arenas, and Vegas, they have these huge arenas, but on the back end of them, like what are they bringing to the community rather than just the entertainment aspect? How are we feeding the next generation of gamers so that they can learn about not just the esports stuff, but really the whole gaming industry?
And we've been playing some clips here from Albany County, from their State of the County address. And looking forward to what you have to come. Just tell me about what you're planning out.
Sure. So I'm going to say 2022, Albany County Parks and Rec was exploring a new avenue of engaging the youth. They reached out to us about introducing esports to the county. They also do Dungeons & Dragons, a comic book club, chess, which these are great programs because they're not your traditional, hey, I'm going to go play pickleball or whatever the thing is, and someone that may not be into those sports may be into Dungeons & Dragons or gaming or chess. And so we explored this partnership where we would provide some programming for Albany County, and then they really liked the program. And Dan McCoy, our county exec, has been a real excellent champion of this. He's had our back on everything we've done. He's really supported the growth of esports. And then we work with their partnership with the innovation and MVP Health. So, it really comes to what gaming can do for like the community, and so the biggest thing is these kids don't have an outlet if they're not doing traditional sports. How can they find a different avenue of connecting with the community? And so that's what we're trying to highlight, and that's what VDO Gaming does. Is it creates a safe space where kids can play the video games, but also learn about what they can do in the future with the gaming that they like to do.
And going a little bit more smaller scale to the lounge itself, just tell me about the variety of events that you have there to just keep the atmosphere going.
Sure, yeah. So, VDO is like a dream come true for us. We worked 10 years to build a space so that we could have the control of, what kind of events we can do. And, Monday nights we have our Smash Bros. Tournaments, which we've been doing for 10 years at different venues. It's nice to just plug and play there. Nice to have a stream set up. And, it's just really nice to have the community come out and support that. Wednesdays, we do nights for the vets. We partner with Albany County Veteran Services. All vets can come in and play for free on Wednesdays. So people have been utilizing that. It's a great place to come in, and you can bring your family, you can bring your kid, your grandkid, and they can just play video games and have a different way to connect. Thursdays, we have our Smash Bros. Melee tournaments, so that's an older game, and we have a great community for that, and they get a great crowd for that. Also, our board game nights on Thursday with Magic and Pokemon, so we have great turnouts for that. Now, the good thing about having a space is, you can have this nice, safe space for people. The problem with the space is now we're outgrowing it. And so like when we have big tournaments, we're like, oh man, we need a bigger space. But that's, it's a proof of concept. So we want to make sure that, we have all the right foundation pieces so that if we do and when we do grow, that we have, the right things for the place in the future. So then Friday nights we have we call it our midnight bowling of gaming. It's Fun Night Fridays, $20 to play all night. So from 5 to midnight, you can come in, try different games. You can play board games on the PCs. So we see a lot of uptick in people there that want to try a new game or come out with a bunch of friends and game. And then Squad Saturdays, more for the vets, but also for people that want to bring a squad and learn how to play different games. Those are fun nights to see different groups of communities come in and play against each other.
Now, you mentioned a couple of things here. You mentioned vets. You mentioned Melee players, which are, it's an older game. You mentioned, so
yeah.
It seems like age is all over the place here.
Sure.
So just tell me what that means to you to have, a whole family event and just the range of ages that brings the people together through games.
Definitely. I mean, in the video clip, you can see Dan McCoy playing with my son. And my son's 10 years old and he loves like the competitive gaming. I guess he's just like me. But, we have kids that come in and, they like to play Minecraft or Roblox and they all play together. And all our facility is all, no chat restrictions. Nobody can go play and talk to people. So, we have a very safe system where kids can come in and play and they can play online with each other and not have to deal with any of the outside noise, which is nice because, we get a lot of questions about, hey, my kid's playing this game, how safe it is. And we teach parents about parental controls and how to navigate this world of like different online games. So when you come into VDO, we make sure that you know this and that your kid's not just talking to strangers online, which is a big talking point, nowadays. So, we want to make it safe, but we also want to make it fun, right? And so these are the things that when we have certain age groups, there's only certain games being played, right? And we have mature rated games, and those are for the older. So we make sure, the kids that are coming in, they're playing the safe games and the fun games together. And then, we got kids from 8 or 6, 7, 8, birthday parties to, you got your young adults and your college kids to your professionals, right? And so, you get a different crowd, a different time, different mix. But we get the ages all the way from, hey, they're just getting into gaming, and this is how they're getting introduced to gaming, to like, hey, I have my game. I just want to come in and burn a couple hours with my friends. And so the atmosphere is always changing, and that's what I like about having, a space is that, they can feel safe enough to come in and navigate whatever kind of gaming they want to do. And that's the great thing about having a space just dedicated to gaming is you have all walks of gamers coming in.
As somebody who spent too many hours at a card shop back in the day, in a very good way, though. It's nice to see that there's something similar here. It's
right.
Like you said, it's a safe space instead of being out doing who knows what.
Yeah.
You send the kid and some money and you call it a day and
right.
and they have a good time with everyone. Now, when it comes to your programs and growing them forward, we talked about working with the colleges, schools, all that sort of stuff. How does that look for the rest of the year, trying to fill out the books and getting schools together? How does that planning work with the schools, and what exactly are you looking for through these schools right now, or just anybody else looking to expand programming?
So I'll talk about a little bit about our partnerships that we've created over the last year, and obviously these partnerships have spawned because we have this space. So, before we used to have partnerships, but we'd have to pick a venue and work at someone else's rules and regulations. And that was tough because, whether the venue was a bar or, a big music venue, it was like, is this really an educational component for, kids? So now that we have our own space, it's nice that we've created partnerships with a lot of different nonprofits. So St. Catherine's, we have a mentor-mentee program where kids come in and they can play video games with their mentor. And they really enjoy that because they have access to the high-end gaming rigs, and who doesn't enjoy that, right? We also have a partnership with Wildwood Programs. So we have, kids on the spectrum come in and they have a dedicated hour where they come in, they socialize, and they have lunch at our facility. And we're working on different components of that program where we're going to introduce them into some workforce development programs, whether it's in the gaming industry or just workforce in general. The gaming really, gets people out of their shells, right? And so then you can kind of find what their passions are. So gaming is like a sneaky way of getting people comfortable.
Yes.
And then, then we can talk about the things we really like. So the Wildwood program has been amazing. We actually had Franklin, our star student. He graduated from our program. It was a 6-week program. He learned about, how to run a gaming lounge, what the ins and components of computers, and they love that program. So we're going to look to build on that program with Wildwood. We're working on different partnerships for summer camps. So last year we ran our own summer camps, which was amazing. We didn't really have a summer, so it was a lot, and this was the first summer that we worked through it. So this summer we're going to be working with different summer camps that come in and do like a field trip day, where they'll come in and it will be more of an education component. Like they'll come in and they'll game, but they'll learn about careers in gaming and STEM's education. So we're really excited about how that summer looks for there. And then with the high schools, we're helping them build out their programs at the beginning of next year, or end of next year. I'm thinking of school years. The beginning of the next school year, we're doing our 5th annual high school esports showcase. And that's all for all New York State schools to come compete for prizes to help scholarships for their esports programs. So basically, this is our 5th year of doing it, and basically it's like a combine or a competition for high school esports programs to compete against each other, and then the collegiate esports programs use it as a recruitment tool for saying, hey, we have an esports program. You did well in this program, or we like your play style, and we have the coaches meet the players. And they'll come in and they'll have this opportunity to say, hey, I can go to school to be on the esports team. So whether it's a scholarship or, a different opportunity where they're like, oh, I wasn't thinking about school. Now you have an opportunity to play, on the esports team, get an education, and continue your journey in video games. So that's like really, we do that once a year. This is our 5th iteration. We've partnered with Albany County, surprise, and the MVP Innovation Fund. And they are our primary sponsor, and we're doing it at the MVP Arena. So it's our 5th one. So I wanted to do it, huge, and what's not bigger than the MVP Arena. And so now all the schools will have this national showcase to show their programs off, but also show what esports can do for a community. And the biggest thing that we want to get out of it is that the programs that are going to come afterwards, the workforce development, and just anything that helps that ecosystem of gaming grow.
All this progress that you've made in all of these years, what was the biggest thing that you learned through all this time and carrying around all those computers to all those different places, recovery room, all these parties? What was the biggest takeaway from all that to make it all worth it?
The biggest thing that I would have to say about gaming or anything that you want to do is just consistency, right? If you're consistent in what you love, and people are going to say no, and there's going to be a lot of doors closed. But if you're consistent and you have a goal, and you don't let anyone really take that goal away from you, listen, being in the gaming industry, especially in a smaller city where there was this could have died so many times, but I had this vision where I'd be sitting here, something like this, talking about what is created from gaming. And, maybe we're not talking about like the actual gaming the esports ecosystem, but we're talking about the gaming ecosystem as a whole, right? And so when people say, hey, that's not really a good idea, maybe it's not a good idea for them, but if it's a good idea for you, you got to be consistent and you got to show up. That's the biggest thing. If you don't show up, then nobody knows who you are. So people know Tony and I as the gaming guys. Hey, at least they know us, And so that's the biggest thing is you just got to be consistent and you got to be open-minded to the things that, people say, but you also got to know what your end vision is. And, people are going to try to change that vision, but you know what it is. So you got to just stick to it. And it's going to be hard because you may lose friends, you may lose this, but you have your vision and you have to do everything to accomplish that. So I would say the biggest thing is there's going to be a lot of no's, but if you know that's what you want to do, you have to be consistent.
Thank you very much for taking this time to be with me today. I really appreciate it. But before we go, anything else that you want to add that you think I missed or is important, or even just a reminder of those dates of those events you got coming up?
Yeah. So, the biggest date for us is September 26, 2026. That's our 5th annual esports showcase. So, that's really, I know we're looking down in the future a little bit, but, this is what we talk about, like setting a goal, right? So even when we did our first one 5 years ago, I knew that I wanted it at the MVP arena. I didn't know what year it was going to be, but I wanted it there. I wanted it showcased. I wanted a big event. And I did everything for the last 5 years to build to that. And so now we're there. So that's a perfect example of setting a goal and then making sure you get anything you can do to get it done. I've made a lot of sacrifices to get we've done a lot to get to this point, but, you have to sit back and kind of enjoy it. And that's another thing. Once you accomplish something, you have to pat yourself on the back sometimes because then you go to the next one. You're like, okay, what else can I get done? Just take the time to enjoy the things that you get done, because if you look at it and going through the stuff I sent you for the last 10 years, I'm like, oh, we did a lot, I don't take the time to really appreciate that. And that's another thing I would say is just appreciate the things you do because it goes by in a blink.
Yes, it does. So once again, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and for everybody else, if you're looking for some Pokemon cards or Super Smash Bros., I guess you know where to find me. No Fire Emblem will be there, but that makes sense, right? So with that, we will leave you with the outro little jingle and have a great rest of whatever's left of your day.